In this video, I'm going to show you how to create this beautiful, cute bubble. First, what you can use to create a form of the bubble is just a simple round lid. I used one from the box that I had and I created this circle. After that, you can slowly start by adding some very light shades on the edges of the bubble. Now this is important because we want to separate the background from this bubble as much as possible, and by layering some very bright and light tones at the edge of the bubble, we will be able to do it successfully. Also here I used pastels for this drawing, but really you can use anything you want for this practice. As long as the paper is either very dark or black, you really want for those whites and bright yellows to pop out, so this is very important if you want to get some good results. You also have this video in real time uploaded on my Patreon page where I'm explaining every step of the way of how I created this, as well as the reference photo and the scan sketch. In case you're still not sure how to draw it, you can simply download the scan sketch, print it out and start coloring it with me. I used the Clairefontaine pastelmat paper for this as well. I wanted to choose a bit darker paper, so as I already said, it would be much easier for me to make these bright tones pop out even more. That is very important when it comes to drawing bubbles. You really want to get some very good contrast while working on it. I even colored the background in black in the end just so I could get like the best possible contrast. So I followed the reference as much as I possibly could, but really when it comes to drawing something like this, you can always be flexible with your choice of colors and just try to combine some of them as you wish. I really had fun combining all these reds, pinks and purples, as well as some greens and like some brownish tones to get the best possible results. Now also, as you can see from my sketch, most of the parts are going to be in either very dark or black tones because we want to make it look like as realistic as possible. So here, don't be afraid of layering some very dark tones because this can only make your drawing look much better in the end. You can play around as I was here with the colors, experiment and see how the colors are going to be combined itself. And also make sure to get some very harsh transitions between the colors, because even though when we're working with colored like pencils or with pastels, we want for our colors to layer nicely between each other and blend well. But when it comes to this particular bubble, we want to create some very harsh transitions between the colors. You can see it like on the left how I made like the purple and pink part. You can really see the difference and clear transition between these two colors. Now this is something that we also need to pay attention to if we want to get some very good results. You can see how slowly but surely our bubble started to pop out already, and that is because we focused on getting the edges very light. Then right next to that light part we added some shades that are more like mid shades and mid-tones, and then in the middle we played with the very dark shades and very light ones, and that is something that can really bring out the best possible look of your bubble. And again, you really don't have to pay attention that much to the reference photo as long as you have in mind that you need to create some very nice contrast, which means that you have to have a lot of black or dark colors and some very light ones. It doesn't really matter what exact shades you choose for the colors in between. This is a very cool practice for you to just experiment with colors, relax, enjoy and have fun while creating something cute and simple like this. And for this, it took me about 2 hours. It would take me even less, but since I did it as a Patreon real-time step-by-step tutorial, I also got some time to just explain what I was doing while creating. So for this, it would take you about an hour and a half, which I don't believe is that much of a time considering how awesome the results you get in the end. I chose pastels because I was able to experiment a bit more when it comes to the shades and the colors. I could change them, go over with some lights and darks on top of the layers, and I kind of prefer to go with pastels because they gave me a bit more like a freedom than colored pencils when it comes to a drawing like this. You can edit some parts later if you feel like some parts supposed to be like lighter or darker. I did that almost at the end of the drawing. I wanted for some lighter parts to pop out even more, so once I was happy with how the drawing turned out, I started adding some lighter and darker tones where it was needed, just so I could make certain parts to pop out even more and get even better contrast. Now, trust me guys, contrast is everything. I really love to play around with contrast as much as I can. It really brings out the best when it comes to your drawings. So really, I know how beginners are afraid of layering some very dark tones, but it is really necessary sometimes to press that pencil and get the darkest possible layer for the best results. Also, while creating something like this, make sure to use some very opaque colors, such as for example pink or green, yellow. They need to be quite opaque and bright, just so it would look like even more like a bubble. Usually bubbles have those like very bright and light tones, and if you want to get them, make sure to get some of these very bright, like even some neon colors. Like if you have them, that would be very good, and I think that would look even like more cool. As for the blending, as I used pastels, I either blended them in between, like I combined them, or I used the blending stumps and tortillas, so you can either combine the colors to get the best possible shade, or you can use some blenders to just blend these colors out even better. Ah yes, I forgot about another blending method, and that is using your fingers. You can see how many times I went over the colors with my fingers, and even though certain artists don't prefer or like using their fingers while blending and they mostly avoid it, I find it very nice and fun, even though after that your fingers will be completely filled with color and you would need to go and wash your hands, of course, quite frequently, because if you use your fingers to blend black part, for example, you would really want to wash your hands before you start blending something lighter, because if you don't, you will end up smudging some of your brightest tones for sure. This is something that you really need to pay attention to, especially while using pastels. Now, this paper is very forgiving, and even if you do smudge some colors, you would still be able to fix it, but I also know certain brands of paper who are not as forgiving as this one, so if you smudge certain parts, you might not be able to correct it afterwards. Also, you can notice how I started from the upper part of the bubble and then I went from the left to the right. So while using pastels, you want to make sure that you, again, don't smudge them. So I started building the drawing from the left to the right just because I didn't want to lay my hands onto the part that I already finished. I know I would simply smudge it. So if you want to avoid it and you already started filling like both left and right part of the drawing, just place one clear piece of paper underneath your hand and you will avoid smudging the drawing. Now once you're done with the bubble itself, you would want to use the lid again, just so you could go over with the black colored pencils right next to the lid. It's because we want to color the background as well, but at the same time we want for that perfect circle to stay as it is. So I use the lid again to create a line around the bubble, and once I'm done with that, I started coloring the background in black. If you're using the black paper and colored pencils for this, you would still want to go over that paper with the black colored pencils, because no matter how much the paper is dark or black itself, going over with colored pencils is always going to make your black color to pop out even more. So if you want the best possible results, make sure to do this as well. Now, I was quite happy how the drawing turned out and what it needed after this, of course, even more contrast and some sparkles as well. So I used the Uniposca white gel pen to add some very tiny spots, dots and sparkles to make this bubble even better looking. Now this really turned out nicely. This Uni Posca white gel pen is an absolute gold, and I think that no matter what medium you're using, this little pen is a must-have, because with just few spots and dots it can really take your drawing to another level. And this would be it when it comes to drawing this cute little bubble. Kindly let me know what do you think about this drawing. Also let me know how it went if you tried to draw it yourself. I would really like to hear your experience. Also, you're very welcome to join my Patreon page. The link is in the description down below, so make sure to check it out. And yeah, this would be all, guys, for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. And I see you in another one very, very soon. Much love, guys. Bye bye.